Good morning. Good morning. I got Erev Shabbos. Parsha Shkolem. Shenichnas Adar. Shchedish. All of their Shchedish. Shenichnas Adar. Mar Simcha. Since it's already the first day of Shchedish, although it's still on the calendar Shvat, but it carries the name of all of Shchedish Adar, so we can be married Simcha. So we're going to deal with a very concept. Torah is Mesameach, Samche Lev. So this is the best way to get into the mood. Deal with a Tumah that's probably one of the most complicated and unique Tumahs, and maybe when we're done, might be the most unique Tumah in all of Tumahs and Tyrus. And that is called Tumas of Nivlas Eif Toher. Nivlas Eif Toher. Nivlas Eif Toher, that's what it's going to be referred to. The Rambam of today, Hilchos Sha'or Avos Hatumos Per Gimel Halacha Aleph, writes. Now, usually I don't have to learn a lot of the Rambam, but we have to learn literally a lot of it because the Chidushim of this Tumah are in this Rambam. Nivlas Eif Toher Mitame Minatayr. Nivlas Eif Toher is Mitame Minatayr. Okay. Chiddush of Nivlas Eif Toher because it's really Eif Toher. No reason for it to be Tame. Ve'ashmua lomdu shezeh shenema v'chol nefesh asher teichal neveila utreifa be'ezrach. It says a pasuk, which L'cher is talking about an animal. Ve'ubager v'chibes v'gada. So he says, I'm going to skip a few words here and there to shorten it, but I can't shorten most of it. Why? Because the idea is that there is no Shu Asr Mishum Nevela Treif. The Gemara learns it out how we do that, but the Ketzad Itumas. Now, how is this make somebody Tameh? And how is its Tumah? Eina Metama Leibemaga V'Leibemas. The general of touching an avela, nope, not here. Carrying an avela, nope, not here. Eating, nope. Like now when you're eating it. When? Ella b'teich beis habiliyah. Only in the part when you're swallowing. At the swallowing point, you got it. As soon as you get past swallowing, nothing. The place of the nefesh. So I say teichal, which sounds like eating. So the Rambam answers, this is a very important line that Rambam, as we'll see later. And then what happens? So listen to this. What becomes tameh while you're eating it? Not while you're eating it, while you have it in base of the. It says, "Melamed shahamistame bo mitame begodov ad sheyifresh mitu mitamav." Now he gives the example. Explain what it says here. This line in a moment. Kate, habayleya kazayis minivlas heifatar. Benoga bekalim b'shaz b'liyosay. That's the key. While you're swallowing, you touch kalim, they become tameh. They become a rishon tumah, which is considered the first stage, and then there's a sheni, shlishi, rabbanon, and all that. Okay, so we have this phenomenal concept of a dover tom, that we'll find out what that means. Something that you swallow only in the base abliya is it metam. Now, there's a very interesting Mishnah in Masechtas Kelim. Well, we all know that Masechtas Kelim is not from the easier Mishnayos to learn. But this is a very Gishmaki Mishnah. Perik Zayin Mishnah Dalit. So when I say Gishmak, I mean it's easy. But I will see, as easy as it is, there's a lot of complications. But yes, now it goes through the days of the week, And it tells you that certain days there are things that are tumah that were created, days that were not tumah. There's no creation of tumah. Tumah. There are things in the first day that are tumah. We're not going to go through it because we don't have the time. Sheni, ein by tumah. Shlishi, yes by tumah. Vi, ubachamishi, on Wednesday and Thursday, ein by tumah. Obviously, the sun and the moon and the creations are all living creations. Chamishi, ein by tumah. Hikshuri shainem. Hey, Chamrin and Abriishnu b'chamisha ein bem tumah. How do you say that it's not tumah? Oif nivra b'chamishi. The bird was created on chamisha, and nivlas oif tar is mitame. They lost some mitamas. Kasha, I will be shining fake. A lot of whoever's on the chat in the Mishnayos, everyone has got it. So there are three answers. Really, it's Shleisha Shein Arba. Not Shnayim Shein Arba, Shleisha Arba. I will see soon why I say that. First and foremost, the Rambam and Pirush Mishnayos asks the question. And he writes it in a very interesting line. I want to read it because the wording is like unique to the Rambam. Don't make a mistake thinking, right? It does have. That's a chiddush. It's not like Tumas Maga. That's the chiddush. We'll talk about what he says in Tchilas Taitus. But that's the line. Therefore, it's not considered created because of chiddush. What's the chiddush? What can I answer that? Bottom line is it's Tumah. It's something else with Tumah that day. We'll see. But it's a very just because not Tumah Mag, it's another way. It's not Tumah the regular Mag. It's Tumah B'Shas Ma'aser when it's basically who cares? A Mishnah is a sefer called Meleches Shloima. And there he says, according to this Rambam, he wants to say pshat in the Rambam. That what the Rambam means to say is that really the Tumas of Nivlas Oif Tor, the Rambam learns, since it's only learned from a drasha, the Rambam holds all things that are learned from a drasha from the Rabban. And therefore, he does not, it's a different sefer, it's not that I say. As he writes many times. Obviously, the most famous one, which everybody who learned any ever learns in any yeshiva knows, Masechtas Kedushin, Rambam writes regarding Kinyan Kesef, which is the Kinyan we use most dominant in Kedushin. He writes that it's only Medivra Sefer. But long has this been taken care of already, that it's not Medivra Sefer. The Rambam himself, the Rambam's son, writes in a famous tshuva that it's not that. So there's really no basis for this idea, but it's a nice try. I'll co-pun them. We still need a beer in the and the Rambam doesn't say it. The Rambam says a different answer. The Tiferes Yisrael there, that's an interesting idea. And when we're going to come to the end, maybe he means what we're saying. I don't know what we're going to say at the end. But his main line is, it's a momentary tumah. It only works, it's only with Tumah for a certain amount of time. So that's not really saying you created a tumah. Again, why not? Who says that tumah has to be forever? I mean, it's Tumah. It gives a little hatomah in the concept that we can maybe build on, but we'll talk about this later. The last answer, that's why I said it's Shleisha Nar, because the Tiferes Yisrael really is just an extension of the Rambam, with perhaps a beer in the Rambam not taking the Ram out of context, but maybe explaining it out. The Rash writes, well, that's not what the Gemara is talking about. We're not talking about what was created. I want to talk about a new concept, a different concept, which is the whole Mishnah doesn't mean what we're saying here. Created Tumah. It means if you make a keli from the items that were created, and forget his rayas from the earth. So when we talk about the Nivla Seif Torah is Tumah, and it's a Tumah like any Tumah, different halachas, which is what we've been asking. But it's not you can't use the skin of a eif to make it into into a keli that's going to be mekabel Tumah. Okay, that's one discussion. There are two other discussions that are essential to the understanding, I believe, in this Indian. We're also to get a picture of what kind of tumah we're talking about. In the beginning of Masechtas Kelim, there's a list of Avos Hatumos, and in this list state. The different things. The Rambam over there is Meir the following. That it doesn't mention some Avos Hatumos, Paraduma, Soyer Hamishtalea, person who's Isik in the Paraduma, the person who sends away the Soyer Hamishtalea, somebody burns the Paramasir Manisrafim, they all become Tameh. So why don't we count those as Avos Hatumos? So the answer is because, again, it's not really a Tumah's Maga or Masa. Ela Tumamim behis asek bohem. You're doing something with them. You're working with them. That's your Tumah. The Tumah is not the Parah is Tameh. The Parah is not Tameh. The Soyer is not Tameh. The Parah Masir is not Tameh. The halach is that the amas as is a tumas is askus, a new concept. They would have no shaykhs to anything else. It doesn't fit into the list of Avos Hatumos. There's no Avos Hatumos. There's no kefts of tumah. It's all just a ula, which is askus. A tumas is askus. We're going to create that word, but it's not my creation. It's brought. Now, in Mishnah Achreina on Mishnayos, why he brings the Rambam and he says, he says it as an answer that is another tumah that's not mentioned here, Nivla Seif Torah, and it's also an Avos Hatumos. So he says, very good, tumas is askus. There's only one drawback. The Rambam doesn't ask. Why doesn't the Rambam ask about Nivla Seif Torah? He should have mentioned it amongst them. But there's another place where it becomes even more pronounced, the Rambam's, the idea that he's saying. In Masechtas Zovin, in Mishnayos, Mishnah Aleph, there also talks about, I'm not getting into all the details, but there's such a thing as how far the tumah goes. So it goes down 2 levels, 1 level. So Rabbi Yeshua says that anything that's Matam Begodim can go down 2 levels. Look, the Rambam, I got a question for you. That's not true. Okay, problem. And yet they don't go down 2 levels, only 1 level. That, in other words, they have the din of a rishon l'tumah in Kayach. So he writes, why? Because these are not ve'elu leben magaheim tumeim ela b'his askom b'pulam hasemes. Consistent. Tumas is askus. Kommt again the Cheshik Shleime, brings this Rambam and asks, Tumas Oif Tahor is also Metama Begodim only at the time of when he's eating it, when he's swallowing it. And yet, it says there that it does have a din of Avos Hatumos. It's right, it's mentioned amongst Avos Hatumos. So how is it different than Para and Parim, Sar Mishtaleach? Thus is the amazing Akash. So we see something here. We see some interesting points. In other words, Tumas Nivlas Torah seems to thread a line in between regular Tumah and Tumas' Askos. That's what I believe is coming out of here. But we'll get to that soon. The Gemara in Zvachim and the Gemara in Chulin, the Gemara refers to Nivlas Torah as a Chiddush. I'm going to skip the Gemara Zvachim because we're not going to get into it, although Reb Chaim Brisker says say based on that Inyan, which is Achilas Pras, which the Rambam does not bring, that there's a din of by Beis Abliya of Achilas Pras, which there is by all other Achilas. However, in Chulin, the Gemara says, Anomaly Rabbi Yeshua, that Nivlas Torah is a Chidush, and you can't learn from there. Like Amrina, Chiddush, you can't learn from a Chiddush. I don't understand. Why is it a big Chiddush? I have Tumas, Soyer, Amishtaleyach. I got a whole list for you that fit the category of Nivlas Torah. Why is it a Chiddush? They're all like that. Tumas is Askus. It's Askus Shazaved. What's the Chiddush? Okay, we can drain a bissel, but it needs a good meal. Now, there are three ways to understand in general between the latter Achreinim, specifically Rabbi Yosef Engel and Rabbi Chaim Brisker, who explain how Nivlas Oif Torah works. Rabbi Yosef Engel has two options. I believe Reb Chaim adds a third option. Rabbi Yosef Engel's options are that Tumas Nivlas Eif Torah, although it's in the Beis Habliya, why is it in the Beis Habliya? Because that's the eating of it. It's a Tumas Achila. Just it's only Tamei in that part of the process of Achila. In other words, the process of Achila begins with putting it into your mouth. I mean, I don't have to go through the whole thing. Some people chew, some people swallow straight. But the point is it goes through your mouth, into your Beis Habliya, and then into your process of digestion. And at the point of, at the middle point, or some point in the middle, called Beis Habliya, that's where you get Tumas Achil. Or he offers a second approach, and that is that Tumas has nothing to do with Achila. It's a Maga, Tumas Maga. When the Nivlas touches the point of the Bliya, the Beis Habliya, that's when it becomes, that's when it makes Tum. That's when the person becomes Tumah and is Matam. Chaim makes like a pshara, I believe, somewhat of a middle ground. That yes, it's a Tumas Mokim, he calls it. In other words, at that place it becomes Tameh. When you're in the process of Achila, it's the Mokim of the Mais Achila. In other words, that's like the Torah tells you this is where this place, when it reaches this place, it becomes Tameh. You know, obviously, in the way Chaim writes, it's hard to get the exact point, but I think that's what that's what he's bringing out. That it's the makom of Beis Habliya, not Maga and not Achila. It's when you're eating and it reaches the Beis Habliya, that makom becomes tough. Perhaps it'll be better understood if he means that with what we're going to say as a fourth option, which I believe that Rambam holds. And again, I only suggested based on the different Rambams that we've seen. The Rambam. So let's be clear the few things that have to be answered here, and I think they lead us to a direction. The Rambam when it comes to Yom Chamishi says not like any other Tumah. Therefore, no creation because Chiddush. But we asked, but it's still a Tumah. And he stresses that it's not metame b'magik yeshar tumas, right? So why does he have to say chiddush? That thing is that it's not like all the other tumas. What's the chiddush part? It's just not like all the other tumas. Why in the beginning of Kalim, when the Rambam says that tumas is askus, is not counted, he doesn't mention anything about nivla seifta. And in Zovim, where he says tumas is askus is not counted, nivla seifta is mentioned. And then the question that we ask, why is it a chiddush? There are 5 others like that. Perhaps, and I think say this perhaps because you never know anything sure, but the Rambam seems to lead us to a new understanding of Nivla Seif Torah. And it's a bit of a radical understanding, and that's why it's a chiddush. That Nivla Seif Torah is a tumas maga to some degree, and therefore it's metamish in 2 levels down. It's not a tumas askus. It's a tumas maga of a cheftza of tumah. But that cheftza of tumah is a momentary cheftza too. In other words, it becomes tamei for a specific moment to be metame the person in a special place. When nivlas of tamei merges with the Beis Habliyah, boom, there's a chalais shem tuma on the nivlas of tamei for that moment in that place, and that's metame the person's metame. So it's not like anything else. It's not that tumas is askus because I was involved with doing so. Eating of them. No, it's a metzias of tumah, and that's the chiddush that a tumah can come about through. It's like, in the world of science, we know that certain things under certain conditions create a certain matzah and take away the conditions over. This is it. The condition of nivla seif Torah. This. Jeromim says tumah is not. Don't compare it to anything else that you can think of. It's a chayk. This tumah will only become a tava tamei at that moment, and then afterwards, it's not that same. It's not nivla seif Torah in the tumah in metam. So that's the chiddush of Eif Torah, that it's a cheftz of tumah in a specific place under a certain condition. Oh, it's very, very geschmack. Well, we kept asking. First of all, it has nothing to do with anything else. So it's a davar chodesh. That's why it answers the Gemara. Chiddush, you can't learn from that. It's not a concept that doesn't exist in the whole Kol HaTorah. Second, what we asked, but Seif davar, there's a tumah that was created. No, it's not a tumah that was created at all. It's a tumah that gets created under a certain condition, and it immediately loses that condition. As soon as you take it away from that condition, there's no tumah. So you can't say that on Yom Chamishi it was created a tumah. Obviously, for a tumah saskis, it definitely fits. But the Rambam doesn't say that. It doesn't fit. We proved that the Rambam doesn't hold that it's a tumah saskis. So you have to say the answer is it's even more than that. It's taka. It is a maga, and the Rambam says it's somewhat of a maga, but it's a maga for it's only under a certain condition that this tumah can be created. That's not a tumah created. The Avos should be created. We created. The Avos created something that if we bring the molecules together with the makkah Beis Habliyah, that's a tumah. Why wasn't it brought in? Therefore, it fits very well for Ked. That's why in Kalim, He doesn't even explain. Because it's an anomaly. It doesn't fit anything. It doesn't belong on any list. It doesn't belong on those lists. If you want to talk about the Tumah being of a Tumah, you can't call this an Ava Tumah because it's only an Ava Tumah under a certain circumstance. In other words, when it only becomes a Chalais Tumah at that moment, otherwise it's not there. Another point, however, in Zavim, we're not talking about the Tumah. You're talking about the result of the Tumah, that it's Matamish, the 2 levels down. And then he has to mention it. That's the word, because it is a Tumah that's Matamish 2 levels down. Yes, it's a Tumah that only gets created at a certain, but when it's created, it doesn't do it. Now, it could be that's what the Tiferes Yisrael meant, although it would be a stretch in putting it in there, but, kol hakavod. You could maybe, if you go through the wording of the Rambam, how he writes the halachas of para and the differences, you can, in Sefer Hayad, but due to the lack of time, we're going to cut it over here. But if you go through there, it seems that he clearly states in the Yad HaChazak that those tumas are nothing more than a tumas haskus. And the Lashanas that he uses here by Tumas Nivlas Eftar, it's more like a Chefs of Tumah, as we said. And therefore it fits and it answers a lot of the question. And this idea that there's a new Chiddush, so if that's true, Nivlas Eftar is Oisnam from all other Tumas in the whole Kala Teir Kula. Anyway, maybe shall help him that we should come to the level of Tara, and it'll be that the Eibishter will be Ma Mikra Metar, Hakadosh Baruch Hu Metar, Shezeichen to the Gula Mitra Shleima Guten Shabbos Zeigezun B'Shtaf.